if you've got comments, if you have comments around BRICS, which had a meeting that ended yesterday. Any hands or Stack to get us?
Teresa Stack.
Thanks, Teresa. Take 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay, well, give me a 1-minute warning
Okay.
after 2 minutes.
Okay.
Well, BRICS, which stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. They held their 15th conference. It was a business forum type conference in Johannesburg, South Africa. And it was a powerful 2 days of heads of state, including the president of Brazil and the president of South Africa, both speaking about their commitment to a new multipolar world order, with BRICS, in essence, replacing the IMF and the World Bank, those treacherous institutions. And so there's lots of hope that more countries will come into BRICS. So Saudi Arabia, Iran, the United Arab Emirates, Egypt, and other countries have applied. So BRICS is going to get very big, and possibly bigger than NATO. So viva BRICS, no to NATO. Thank you. I'm done, George. Don't let the time lag, George. Call on somebody
Okay,
else.
yeah, sorry. I was muted. I didn't realize. Anyone else have comments or recommendations around BRICS? Sylvie, is there anything you want to share with us about anything you know about BRICS? I guess not, since you're giggling. It's a great smile and laugh there, but I guess you don't have anything to add around BRICS? Okay. Then let's hear the report on the UN Decade Reparations No NATO Tour of the Northeast. I'm going to put up photos while Teresa speaks. Yes, ma'am?
The Southern Anti-Racism Network, we've signed on to the Declaration of Global Women for Peace United against NATO as Southern Anti-Racism Network. Well, since we're all here and all of us are members of WILF, except Fannie Marie, who will be becoming a member today, because we give memberships to board members, Fannie. So I will give your membership today, so that you are now a part of the Fannie Lou Hamer branch, which has become a kind of Southern Georgia branch with members in Columbus, Warner Robins, Albany, and now Valdosta. And we sponsored and paid for the tour, which was a basically 6-city tour. We kicked off in DC on December 8th. And George, if you could put up the DC picture, that would be great, because Lucy Murphy, who's the organizer for the DMV branch, which stands for DC, Maryland, Virginia. So all of those 2 states and the colony of DC are part of the same branch. George, I don't see the photo. George, you really need to say something so we know you're there.
Pulling up the photo.
Well, I'll keep moving. The next stop on the tour, yeah, that's the DC stop of the tour. We all took group photos at the end. and Lucy Murphy in her beautiful white. She says she wears white because she finds that people say yes, and we do say yes to Lucy Murphy in the DMV branch. And the next stop was Philadelphia on August 9th. So, George, if you could put up the Philadelphia photo, because the Philadelphia event was the best attended event. There were 20 people there. And that was it, George, if you could put it back up. There were 20 people there. And we raised $170 at that one stop to help offset the $3,000 spent on the tour. And then the third stop was New York City, where there were 8 people in attendance. George, if you could do the New York City stop. Yeah, those are all the Philly people. So the New York stop had 8 folks. Unified Black Caucus, Red Stockings were represented, and Brooklyn for Peace were the organizations that came out in the pouring down rainstorm with outrageous traffic in New York. And they came, and we raised $140 at that stop. And you can see the tall gentleman. He is the founder of Unified Black Caucus in New York. So that was a great stop. And then we went on to Providence, Rhode Island, where I'm starting a branch, a statewide branch in Providence, and there are no pictures from that. You know, I had several meetings over 4 days with people, and several folks have joined, and we're trying to get to 10 active members by October. So I will be returning to DC on the 17th of October, Philly on the 18th, New York on the 19th, and Providence on the 20th to seal the deal on the branch. And we had a Zoom event with the mainly Vermont branch, but several folks from around the Northeast attended the Zoom meeting organized by the Burlington, Vermont branch. And the final stop on the tour, George, if you could show the Boston stop. At that stop, we raised $130. So we raised a little bit to help offset the cost of the tour, but not nearly enough. So we're in major fundraising mode for people who are part of SARN. And I must say that, George, do you have the Boston picture?
Yes, I'm pulling it up now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So George Friday and I, lifetime members of SARN, and Lucy Murphy was at the founding conference of SARN. So she's, we still consider her a member. We need to collect some dues from Lucy, but she's a member based on her being at the founding conference. And of course, Fannie Marie is a member and a member of the board. And so I'm saying this for Sylvie so she can understand the significance of the Southern Anti-Racism Network in supporting WILF and WILF branch, because at every stop on the tour in person, it was coordinated and supported by branch, the DMV branch, the Greater Philadelphia branch, and the Boston branch. So that's very significant because the Southern Anti-Racism Network will apply as a group for membership with WILF International because we've had a very hard time with the current president of WILF US disrespecting us and refusing to recognize us. And I'm saying this specifically for the record, because when we organized a tour collaborating with Branch, the president made a point, Darian DeLu, that SARN could not use the WILPH logo. So it became strictly a project of the Southern Anti-Racism Network. But the Southern Anti-Racism Network is a supporter of WILPH in the U.S., and we're a part of all of the branches, and we're starting new branches. I'll stop there.
Thanks, Teresa. Any questions for Teresa? Say stack or put your hand up so I can see it.
Oh, that's a great Boston picture, isn't it?
It is.
My young friend over to the far left, Sarah Mersha, she and I met when she was 19 years old, when she lived in Rhode Island in the 90s. And now she's all grown up, married, with a little girl and a stepdaughter. Yeah, that's Sarah on the far left, kind of tall and always very thin. And she's holding up the Jobs with Justice poster with another person. But the Massachusetts Peace Action, the Boston WILPH branch, and other groups were there, but mainly it was Massachusetts Peace Action. So the tall gentleman standing kind of to the side and back of me is Cole Harrison. He was the organizer of the tour, and you can see me holding up the UN Decade for People of African Descent poster. What I would like to hear from Sylvie is what the 18 sections of WILPH in Africa are doing for the UN Decade, since WILPH International passed the important resolution, which was handed out at every stop on the tour, saying that all sections should promote the UN Decade, because we only have about maybe 16 months left, because the UN Decade ends in December of 2024. So I know that Sylvie's connection is not great. She's probably in Cameroon, but if Sylvie could say something about the UN Decade and what's being done in Africa, particularly WILPH in Africa. I'm putting you on the spot, Sylvie.
You're muted. I can tell that you're speaking, but we can't hear you. You're listed here twice, and the other Sylvie is muted. It doesn't look like you're muted, but I couldn't hear you. But there's a second Sylvie here that is muted. If you can unmute there and try to speak, please. Perhaps on your phone or another device that you're using for the Zoom that you can unmute. I'm not able to unmute it on this end. Still can't hear you. Goodness. Can you try unmuting the other device that you're on here with? Still muted. I'm so sorry. This is really frustrating, I know. And you can't mute that other device, Sylvie, I guess. Are you putting in any information in the chat for us about what WILF International is doing for the UN Decade? I guess that's possible to put something in the chat, but still no sound from your end. Oh, dang. Our next agenda item is to talk about next week's meeting with Global Women United. There are a lot of agenda items for that meeting next week, including doing some strategic thinking together. But three of the major pieces are the 75th NATO anniversary next July, getting more signatures on the declaration, and deciding how each work group is going to support the plans for next year. So the floor is open for any recommendations or comments for next week's meeting. Basically, what do we as a group need to be bringing forth next week during the meeting? Teresa?
Well, I do plan to give the report from the Africa Working Group. I'm considered kind of de facto coordinator of the Africa Working Group. And it's unfortunate that the other people who registered, Ernest and George, who were the other people who registered?
Khadija and I'm gonna have to check it out. Wow.
Well,
Sylvie,
you can
we've got
check.
a third Sylvie.
Oh,
and maybe
she's still trying it.
Yes, ma'am. She is.
Oh. Yeah, she see the connectivity problems are a hassle. So we got three Sylvies. Two of them are unmuted. So Sylvie, can you speak now? She is the president of WILF International.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
Could hear you that time. Go ahead. So yes, we could hear you.
So the first is really, really awful.
Well, we know you're talking, but it's so garbled, and it's unintelligible in the sense that we can't understand what you're saying. So it's not a good connection. So in terms of what we'll be doing next week, because we will be meeting next Thursday, August 31st, as a Global Women for Peace United against NATO, and that's going to be the whole group from all the countries in Europe, in South America, the US, Canada, the Philippines. All of us will be meeting together next Thursday. And I believe the meeting is scheduled to start at 9 a.m. Eastern time. So George is asking what should be on any comments on the long agenda, because George is facilitating that meeting and she has it planned as a 2-hour agenda. One of the things I ask us to look at is strategic planning in terms of a 5-year plan. If we say no to NATO and we want NATO to stop expanding, and we really want NATO to end because it is a North Atlantic terrorist organization that's threatening countries around the world, that if you mess with any one of us, then all of us will pile on you and do you in. And they have nuclear weapons. So all of the nuclear weapons powers are a part of NATO. And so that is the purpose of our group, Global Women for Peace United Against NATO. So that is the centerpiece of it. So we're mobilizing for the 75th anniversary of the founding of NATO. Their summit will be in Washington, D.C., Lucy, which is why I'm visiting again in October. So it will be an organizing meeting where I will invite the Teamsters and other union people to come to our meeting to talk about how DC can receive the international community coming in saying no to NATO. So I hope that Daryl or you can pull some people together from other groups. I'll be staying at the Cambria Hotel, not the hotel where I stayed before, where it was not friendly access for people with mobility issues. So there's probably going to be a space at the hotel, a kind of dining room type area where we can meet there in the evening of October 17th. So we don't have to worry about, I won't have to worry about traveling. So I do want to open the floor for Lucy to say what she thinks the potential is for people on the ground in DC to support the international mobilization to say no to NATO. And I believe the dates are July 9th through the 11th of 2024. George, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'll stop talking now in hopes that Lucy can say something.
Yeah. Code Pink has done a pretty good job of rallying the no to NATO forces. So yes, I think we will have people, and I must say I lost audio for a few minutes, so I may have missed some finer points. I did want to say that in the past week, we've had a flurry of demonstrations here in DC that I've attended, which were spearheaded by Black Alliance for Peace. One was protesting the Kenyan troops coming to Haiti, protesting the way Jamaica kind of okayed it from CARICOM. So we visited the Jamaican embassy and the Kenyan embassy on last Thursday. And then a lot of continental Africans came from everywhere from North Carolina to New York, came to DC to protest at the French embassy, protesting French interference in their former colonies. Most of the people were Francophone, but it was a bilingual English and French demonstration in front of the French embassy last Friday. And I'm discovering who the African journalists are who are, trying to put this together, but it's still a fragmented situation. People were not aware of the Pacifica stations, which, advocate for anti-imperialism in Washington, D.C. and New York, WBAI in New York and WPFW in D.C. And then we had another demonstration. Oh gosh, no. Somebody else can talk. I'll finish it.
Thanks, Lucy. So any other suggestions or recommendations as we look towards July 9th through 11th in DC next year? Anyone have thoughts?
Well, George, what Lucy just reported is extremely significant. And I don't think we should just not say anything about that, since we are the Africa Working Group. And we owe Haiti a great debt. In 1804, when Haiti told the French to get out and they would no longer be their slaves, well, France required Haiti to pay reparations to France for 200 years. And finally, they stopped paying reparations, but not after Haiti was driven into deep poverty and being the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. That's what France did to Haiti. Now they're doing similar evil all over the continent. Niger, where there's a terrible thing going on now, it's a poor country that is another French colony. So France is a real problem, and France is in NATO. So I think when we start talking about Africa and our liberation as people of African descent from these colonialists and neo-colonialists, we can't ignore the significance of what Lucy just reported, because taking on Kenya and taking on Jamaica is really significant, because Kenya has no business supporting that. But wasn't Kenya, was Kenya a colony of the UK or of France? But all of these African
Kenya was a colony of the UK, but now it's a colony of the United States. It's interesting that the Kenyan troops, as soon as they got off their airplanes in Haiti, went straight to the U.S. Embassy, not to any Haitian governmental entity, but to the U.S. Embassy.
Same on Kenya. And so, Sylvie, is there a WILPF section in Kenya? Say yes or no, or type it in the chat. Because we need to use WILPF internationally, particularly with all of the sections in Africa in this UN decade for people of African descent, where we're calling for recognition, justice, and development. And African countries have to step up. The Southern Anti-Racism Network is a small organization, but we're stepping up to make sure that everybody knows we're in the UN decade. So the tours that we'll be doing over the Southeast in March of 2024 and in the Midwest in May of 24 will make lots of people aware that there has been this UN decade for years, and no one has done much about the call for recognition, justice, and development. But the resolution that was passed by WILPF at the 33rd triennial that we had in July of 2022, when you were elected president, Sylvie, we have to lift this up because at the Congress in 2025, we're supposed to report as sections what we have done. So what the Southern Anti-Racism Network is doing will be a report from the U.S. section, because otherwise there's nothing much going on in the U.S. section. I believe it was put on the website, which means it will stay up on the website in accordance with the resolution from the Wilf International Triannual. It will stay on the website until the end of the decade, which will be December 2024. So George, in terms of the agenda for Global Women for Peace United Against NATO, I think the Africa Working Group report needs to be focused on this report from Lucy because we are in the UN decade. And so if I have 5 minutes, I will lift up what Lucy has said, and hopefully Lucy will be there because if she could take a minute or so to share what the latest developments are around stopping military intervention into Haiti, because we need to stop military intervention by the United States and their puppets as much as possible. Over.
Okay. Sylvie had stepped away for a minute. She's back now. Sylvie, is there a WILF chapter in Kenya? Can you say or type in the chat yes or no if there's WILF in Kenya? I'm not confident that Sylvie heard me. Let me see if I can put it in the chat. Okay. A WILF branch in Kenya, Sylvie? Okay, I'm going to type it in the chat to her directly. Okay. And Teresa, there is 5 minutes on the agenda for the work group reports next week. And when Africa Work Group goes, Lucy, the meeting is at 9 a.m. next Thursday. I'll send you the registration information. Can you be on, Lucy, next Thursday, 9 a.m.?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and I'll send you the registration information. So Sylvie, can you hear me at all? I'm not confident that, can you hear me, Sylvie? Is there a WILF in Kenya?
It would be a WILF section. It would be a WILF section, not a branch,
Okay.
because the countries are sections, George, not branches.
Thank you.
And Lucy, I did type the address information in the chat for you directly to you.
The chat doesn't help me. I need it in my because I don't save the chat. Please send it email or text, please.
I'll text it to you when the call is over. Thank you.
Okay.
George, we need to move the agenda. I think we have less than 13 minutes left.
Yes, and the only agenda item left is to set a date for a next meeting. Given Khadija and Ernest were the folks who registered that weren't here, and Noma is not available today, but she is going to send me her available dates for next month on Monday. So if it's all right with y'all, I will use those dates as a basis and circulate them to ask what is a good date for a follow-up meeting that would happen in September. Is that all right with y'all?
Well, no, because since we are here, we should give you our availability and see if that fits with Noma, Khadija, and Ernest. And we have traditionally done these meetings on a Thursday. So I would say we should look at our calendars for Thursdays in September, and then we can say which ones we're available, and you can offer those dates to the missing folks. And I would say Thursday, September 7th is my best date, but I'm also available on Thursday, September 21st. So those are the 2 dates I would offer. Lucy, are you available at 10 a.m. On those 2 dates? And Fannie Marie, you've been very quiet.
I heard the 21st, but what was the other date?
September 7th.
I can't do the 7th.
Well,
I could do
then
the
that's
21st. I could do the 21st or the 28th only.
Well, both of those dates work for me. So you can offer those 2 dates, the 21st and the 28th. Lucy, are you available at 10 a.m. on those 2 dates?
I'm not available on the 28th.
Well, George, we should definitely focus on the 21st. What
Right.
about you, Fannie Marie?
I'm not available on the 21st.
At 10 a.m.
No. Well, I have a doctor's appointment at 9 a.m.
Well,
What about
George,
11?
I'm free all the other Thursdays.
George, you should offer them the 21st and the 28th at 10 a.m. And if we'll see how many of the most people can be there on one of those 2 dates. I'm available both of those 2 dates, and so are you, George. And we'll just see how we can make it work. Lucy is not available on, what did you say, the 21st, Lou?
The
The
28th.
28th.
Okay, so we really want to steer people towards the 21st as a preference.
Okay. Sounds good. We might not have Fannie Marie then, but we'll do our best. And Fannie Marie, do you want the registration information for next week's Global Women United meeting?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I'll send that to you as well. And our audio with Sylvie isn't perfect, so I'm not confident Sylvie's hearing me, so I will send her the information as well. Anything left lingering for us to cover? Anyone?
No, I'm just looking forward to hearing from the Africans. And George, Lucy and I will let the CPP Ubuntu know because they were a major sponsor, endorsing organization, I should say, for the UN Decade Reparations Tour. So I'm hoping that Kofi, once you send out the proposal for the 2 dates, you make sure you send it to Kofi, Akil, and Yanaka, and Toy Kumo, who were the people I sent the registration for today to. So George, the list has gotten bigger, but we definitely need to include CPP Ubuntu, which Lucy and I are a part of.
Okay.
In addition to the Southern Anti-Racism Network.
All right then. Well, thanks everyone. Hope to see you next month, and hope that we get our glitches right so that International President Sylvie can join us. All right, y'all. Take care.
Well, don't forget, next Thursday, the 31st, is when we're all going to see each other again at 9 a.m. So it's much sooner than next month, George. So all of us are planning to be at that meeting at 9 a.m. on Thursday, August 31st.
Absolutely. All right then. Bye.
Thank you, George. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Bye.